is it? And let's not forget the best part of the whole thing. Love it. Are you ready? Hey there, I'm Chris Shiflett, and you're watching another fine episode of Shred With Shifty. It is a good one today. Get ready for all those cool, jazzy chord inversions. But first, wanted to remind you, it's not too late if you're out on the West Coast to catch one of my solo gigs. I'm playing tonight, August 24th at the Belly Up in Solana Beach. Then Venice West in Venice, California tomorrow night, August 25th. Then up to Bakersfield, California at Tembler Bruin Saturday night in Bakersfield, August 26th. Let's go. And we did add a matinee show out at Fitzgerald's Sidebar in Chicago on September 14th with my buddy Jim from Pennywise. That's going to be epic. There's still some tickets left for that. So get on over to chrisshiflettmusic.com. You can get tickets for all the shows. You can also pre-order my new record, Lost at Sea. Doesn't come out till October 20th, but we've got bundles with football scarves and coffee cups, fishing lures, colored vinyl, everything you want. Get them before they're gone. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up for Shifty's Tackle Shop to stay up on all the latest news. And I'm not sure how you're watching this right now, but if you want to get the ad-free versions of the show, make sure you get over to volume.com/Shifty and follow us there, because what's better than ad-free? You don't want all those pesky ads. And one more thing, if you could be so kind, please go over to my YouTube channel and follow me there. My YouTube numbers are abysmal. We need to get that up, and we need your help to do it. And I promise you, I'm going to start posting just really super duper interesting content there soon. And as always, learn the guitar solo, or in today's case, the chords, film it, post it, tag us, Shred With Shifty, and tag me too, so we can review that at a later date. All right, let's get into the show. All right, if ever there was a guest that needed no introduction, today's guest is it. He's performed on, written, produced, or arranged so many hit songs in his decades-long career that his Strat is nicknamed the Hitmaker. He is, of course, the one and only Nile Rodgers. And no, we're not breaking down a CHIC tune, or David Bowie, or Sister Sledge, or Madonna, or Duran Duran for that matter. But we are getting into the weeds on the Diana Ross classic tune, I'm Coming Out, where Nile's going to break down all the guitar parts in it, chords, fanfare, everything. I gotta say, this one really stretched me out, got me thinking different as a player, because it's just so out of my wheelhouse and not what I normally do, and I love it. This is Nile Rodgers on Shred With Shifty. Nile, what's up, man? How are you?
Okay, great, guys. What's happening?
Very excited and honestly pretty nervous to do this interview, man. This is probably the most I've woodshedded on any of these interviews, because your guitar playing, I love your guitar playing. You're obviously one of the most iconic guitar players out there with an instantly recognizable sound to what you do, but it's so out of my wheelhouse. You know, I came up in loud rock and roll music that's just and you play with all this finesse and nuance. So I'm really looking forward to this. Thanks for doing this, and I hope I learn a lot. Something tells me I'm going to.
I don't know, because I started out with bands just playing. This one goes to 11.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you're a fascinating guitar player, because although, I mean, if people could have seen what I just saw when we were setting up a moment ago, you can obviously rip lead guitar. You know, you were sitting there just noodling around, ripping. But that's not the part of your guitar playing that you're really famous for. It's more like the riffs and the songs, of course, and the grooves and all this, and your production and all that. But why, was that a conscious decision when you first started out to not showcase your lead guitar playing? And if so, why?
Well, the thing is that um, I did showcase my lead guitar playing actually quite a bit, but I came up in the era of the album, if you will.
Sure.
So the songs, my very first single, my first song that I ever put out was, a million seller. And people thought the B side was the A side because the B side was an instrumental that I had written called Sao Paulo. And instrumentals were a large part of the music business when we started. So when I was in a rock and roll band and we were in a heavy rock and roll band,
Right.
playing instrumentals was our thing. As a matter of fact, we have a song called "At Last I'm Free" that became probably more well known, not as a chic song, but from the rock bands covering it. But in fact, I did write that in 1970 or 69, like right after Woodstock. I mean,
Oh, wow.
so
And you were
uh,
at Woodstock, weren't you?
yeah, I was at Woodstock. I was sick as a
Wow.
dog, but yes.
Why did you? You didn't take the brown acid, did you?
I took every color acid they had. Oh
Oh,
man. I mean, talk about it was so funny. I mean, imagine having to call your parent, and plus my parents didn't have a car. So the only one out of my crew whose you know, parental figure had a car was my other guitar player friend, and his dad was a tenured professor at Columbia University. So to tell this distinguished gentleman to come and pick us up because we're like vomiting and throwing up, and we took too much acid, and we didn't know what we had taken, and we were just trying to party and hang out, and it was pretty embarrassing.
yeah, I have teenage boys, so I feel his pain. By the way, it should be noted real quick that one of these songs we're focusing on today actually does have a guitar solo. So I don't want to sell your lead guitar playing short here, and we'll get to that in a bit. But before we get into that, can you talk a little bit about how you developed your rhythm style? Because you have a very distinctive, like chucking rhythm style,
Yeah.
with like cool inversions, and there's there's so much more than initially meets the ear. Because I've tried to figure out some of your songs before, and then went and watched online, what you're actually doing, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so much cooler and more interesting than what I thought it was.
Yeah. So what happened was I started out with classical music. I started out as a woodwind player. I started out on flute, and I switched from flute to B flat clarinet. And what was great about the B flat clarinet is that it has the same written range as the guitar. So when so I'm a New Yorker, and but I'm sort of bi-coastal. So my mom had me really young. The first time she had sex, 13 years old, she got pregnant, had me. Um, so I had a very nomadic childhood, and so when I was playing classical music, I played nothing but classical music until about the age of 15 or 16. At that time, I was in Los Angeles. Um, I went out to this party, and we used to listen to a radio station that was just a real hardcore R&B radio station that every now and then played some jazz like West Montgomery and stuff. And as
Mhm.
much as I loved it, I never tried to play that style of music. I only played classical music. Um, but then one day we went to this thing called the Teenage Fair at the Hollywood Palladium, and we met a group of guys that would be called hippies, but in those days they were called freaks. And they asked us if we wanted to take a trip, and we said, "Sure, man." In those days in LA, so we're talking late '60s, mid '60s. Um, uh, Taking trips were, we were hitchhikers. We hitchhiked all over town and would hitchhike to Venice to the beach and the whole bit. And we thought that's what they meant. So we took a trip with these dudes. They took us up into the Hollywood Hills, and that was the first time I had LSD. And I didn't know. what was going on at all. I mean, I had no idea. Never heard of Dr. Timothy Leary. Never heard of LSD. None of
Right.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And we partied with these people for like 2 days, and they thought we were really funny. We thought they were really funny because we were actually on our way to the skating rink, and we got waylaid because we arrived in between sessions, and we were waiting for the next session, and we happened to notice these freaks going to the teenage fair, and wow, the rest is history. They played the Doors' first album for 2 days straight, and when I finally got home, the police were at my house because my grandmother thought that I was kidnapped or ran away. And I just walked into the house going, "This is the end, beautiful friend, my only friend. Father, yes, son, I want to kill you. Mom, I want to kill you." Bam, bam, when I do that, I was like gone.
Right, right. I mean, was that the moment, like musically, that you got turned on, like more like the rock and roll stuff? Like, how did that play? I guess what I'm getting at is who were the guitar players you were listening to that kind of influenced like some of that, like the way you kind of pump with the left hand and keep the percussive thing going with the right hand.
So that developed later. So first, I got into the music of my childhood, which was jazz. So
Sure.
I was really into straight ahead bebop jazz guitar playing. Django Reinhardt style. I love gypsy guitar playing. So that's really where I was coming from.
Mm,
The whole thing about chucking came into my world when I met my soon to be partner Bernard Edwards, and he hired me. Well, we met on a pickup gig where we were both hired by somebody that we didn't know, and uh, but for some reason he and I just got along like it was incredible. It was I even said to him after that first night that we met, I said, "Man, I never want to do another gig without you." He said, "It's funny, I was thinking the exact same thing about you." Now, I wasn't chucking, and I didn't even have a solid body guitar. I was playing a big jazz guitar, and but still, it was funky because at least we played the songs, and they sounded like the songs on the jukebox,
right.
and people like that, like in the black community back in the day. Um, uh, and so that I did that for years, and then so I had always been a music student. Um, I then started studying at this institution called the Jazz Mobile Workshop, which was in Harlem, even though I lived downtown in the Village. So I would go to Jazz Mobile Workshop, and I studied under this guitarist named Ted Dunbar and another guy named Roland Prince. And they started to get me more into the West Montgomery style of playing with the thumb and the whole bit.
Okay.
And that was fun. That was great. As a matter of fact, Ted Dunbar, you might know of him because he replaced John McLaughlin in the Tony Williams Lifetime.
Oh, wow.
He did the second album. So John did the first album, um, and then John left the band, and then my teacher came in. So I was just doing the jazz scene in New York, still playing a big fat guitar. Um, but we were doing covers, man. We were playing like, hit records.
Right.
And somehow we got a gig because we had gotten pretty popular. I'm actually giving you the super condensed story, even though I'm talking a lot. Um, because what happened is I went and I auditioned. I got the gig for Sesame Street. So I started playing for Sesame Street at 19. I went from Sesame Street to the Apollo Theater, was in the house band. Then Bernard became the music director of a band called New York City. We had a hit record called I'm Doing Fine Now, and we traveled around the world with that hit record for about 2 years. But I was still playing bigger guitars. My compromise was a 335 at one point, and then I went back to a big box, Barney Kessel. And then our group somehow got uh, um, the opportunity to open for the Jackson Five because the Jackson Five were doing their first world tour, and they had, I think, the Commodores and oh man, the group we stood in for who did Backstabbers, the OJs.
Okay.
So when the OJs would have another gig, we would step in and we would do the gig, and that's when I first met Michael, and we became friends for life. Um, and I was watching the Jackson Five play Dancing Machine. They were rehearsing Dancing Machine, and me and Bernard were in the audience. Now, mind you, what I haven't said to you guys is Bernard had always been busting my ass about getting a Strat. Like he was like every day of his life, man, you need to get a Strat. You need to get a Strat, man. That big fat thing is feeding back, man. And blah, 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 blah. Who do you think you are, man? You're not West Montgomery. Yeah. I said, but when I'm not playing with you, I get to play, Sesame Street and cocktail gigs and whatever.
Right.
So anyway, we did this one gig, and we were doing a gig down in Miami Beach, and sorry, it was Fort Lauderdale, and at this joint called it was Miami Beach, Kenny's Castaways, and we were headlining, and the band that was opening for us had a young kid who was playing a Strat. And when I say young kid, dude, affectionately, I mean, I was all of 20 or something.
Sure.
But the guy before us was maybe 17 or 18. And he had a Strat. And he was also playing cover songs, right? Because that's what they hired you for, to play the songs that were hot. And he plugged it into my amp, and he sounded amazing. And Bernard, you know what? You've heard the statement, if looks could kill. I swear to God, man, daggers were coming out of the dude's eyes. He was like looking at me like, you motherfucker. Listen to what he sounds like. And he can't play half the stuff you play. Listen to that guy. He sounds 10 times better than you, and he can't play half as well. He said, I want you to go get a Strat. I was like, all right. So I took my Barney Kessel to this district in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, North Miami, whatever. And they had a whole bunch of pawn shops in those days. And I gave the guy my Barney Kessel, and he gave me back this exact guitar and $300. And I went,
is that the Hitmaker right there? That's the actual.
Yeah. This exact guitar. This guitar.
Nice.
And $300. I was like, what?
Wow. God, that's the best trade of your whole life. You've probably told this story a million times, but I always wondered how those Gibson speed knobs wind up on it.
Well, that was the whole deal. So remember, I had just told you I'd only been playing jazz guitars. So these are the knobs that I was used to. And Marvin Gaye had the song, Let's Get It On. And it started with, wah, 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 wah. So probably that guitar player on that record may have had a volume pedal, but I couldn't afford any of that stuff. So I had to do the effect like.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure.
I mean, it was like, that was the only way I could do it. So it became a part of my playing, because if I were to solo over something that was sweet, it was nice and expressive to be able to go, that.
Sure.
So it just became a thing. And then I put this shiny pick guard on it, this faceplate, because I used to shine it in girls in the audience, and that just became a gimmick.
Yeah.
And then
disco ball.
Yeah, and also because it's a hardtail. My guitar is light as a feather. I mean, this thing weighs nothing. And whenever I play other Strats, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like my guitar, honestly, if you pick this thing up, you'd be cracking up at how light it is.
Really?
So many people who are into the whole folklore of Leo Fender and how cheap he was and whatever, I've heard a million stories. So I don't know what this really is. The other day, Richie Sambora, who's got two. Um, oh man, uh, the most expensive Shred? The one after the cool guitar player. What's her name?
I'm not sure what, like a 59 or something.
They named the guitar after her, but Leo was so cheap he didn't even give her one, so she never even owned one. But Mary Kay, right? So
Ah,
Richie Sambora has two Mary Kays, and he said, "Nah, look at your guitar. It's like a Mary Kay. It's all thin. It's light as a feather. It's because it was made for women." And it was like, oh,
there you go.
maybe, but whatever. It's this
Do you,
and
do you know what year it is?
59.
Oh, it is a 59. Okay, amazing. Right. Why were all the good guitars built in 1959? It's like Les Pauls, Strats, Gretches. It's always a 59. Like, what was happening that year for guitar building?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I guess they felt they were on the cusp of a new decade coming in, and so they wanted to go out swinging.
yeah. And then the guitar industry has never improved on it since. They've only made them worse. I got a question. I mean, you're talking about sort of those early years when you're coming up, but you produced the CHIC records, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
producing from the get go, right?
yeah.
How did you work that? How did it? How did you have the confidence to know what you wanted to hear in the studio, being relatively young and inexperienced? I'm assuming, and also, how did you get your label to go along with that? Like, was producing always the sort of end goal for you?
So no, so I was an arranger. See, I did all of the charts. So what happened was, since I came in, so not only did I write the song, but I wrote the arrangement. I wrote out the strings and I wrote the horns and all that. So um, I, just being a youngster, thought that being an arranger was a very distinguished gig to have. I mean, if I go back in history and I think of all the records that I would actually be the co-writer on, because I did all that stuff. I was
Right,
like,
right.
but I wanted to be like Burt Bacharach or like Quincy Jones
Uh,
or
yeah,
or like Oliver Nelson. I thought that that's being a jazz orchestrator and arranger. I thought that was the bomb.
right.
So when we first heard the term self-contained band, which is from the Beatles, we were like going, oh wow, well yeah, that's we have to do everything. So I had to do the string charts, the horn, the harps, the violins, everything,
Write
and
the
it
songs,
was
produce the track. This the
right. But I didn't know about the producer being the same as like the director of a film, like you were the boss. I thought that it was like the person who put up the money. I thought it was like a movie business.
right,
So
right.
to me, the arranger, that thing, I knew what Burt Bacharach did. I knew what Quincy Jones did. I knew that. So um, so I just grew up with this teenage mind of, wow, I want to be that dude. And next thing I know, I realized, "Well, I wrote that song." Like, hell,
And
no,
somebody else got the publishing credit. Yeah.
right? My man, he just did. That's what Bowie did on Let's Dance. I went and then moved it up an octave and went and into minor 13 chord. I'm like, that's what I did.
Well, it's funny that I mean that's got to be one of the most like sort of disputed things is when does contributing become writing?
I just wanted to be that guy who helped an artist focus and complete the work and do all the beautiful ear candy. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I thought that was cool. Like you just write dun 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 dun, and I'll write bum 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 bum. Dun.
How old were you when you actually first picked up a guitar?
16.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, at what point, In playing, you talked a little bit about how you were learning guitar, but at what point in it did it go from learning a couple of cowboy chords and a couple of scales to like, I got this, like feeling like you were taking control of it?
Almost right away, because what happened was I was a incredibly accomplished music reader because I had been playing in the symphony orchestras, the various symphony orchestras around Los Angeles. Um, so when I switched to the B flat clarinet, which has the same written range as
Right.
the guitar, right? The low E, three ledger lines below the staff, is the same E as that guy on a clarinet. So I had tons of etudes that I could study and learn to play, fingering on the guitar just from these books. And I just said, okay, I know what this sounds like or should sound like. Um, but here's the funny thing, man. So after that psychedelic experience, coming home, after listening to the Doors over and over and over again for 48 hours, um, I get my grandfather's guitar. It's up on the wall. He only played blues, and I get my grandfather's guitar up on from the wall, and I tried to tune it because I didn't really know anything about the guitar because it's not part of the symphony orchestra. So I tuned it in fifths, and because that's the only thing that sort of made sense to me. And I went out and bought a Beatles songbook, and I kept trying to play the song "A Day in the Life," and I was playing it like fingering, and it was just sounded really weird. And my wacky teenage brain thought that, well, I know that if you don't have your mouth on various instruments that I had played uh, before I picked up the guitar, if you don't have your mouth in the proper position, you don't get the right tone. You got to get it. You got to be just right for it to function properly. It's called embouchure. And I was just thinking, like, so I have to have the guitar equivalent of the right embouchure. And I
Mm.
kept at it, man, trying to play A Day in the Life from this little chord chart in this Beatles songbook. And one day, my mom's boyfriend came home and said, "Whoa, dude, like, what do you have that thing tuned like?" I said, like I have it tuned like a guitar. So I was able to play bass lines. I was just going and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but then when I tried to play the chords, it was all wacky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you tuned a guitar to fifths, what does that do to the like? What do the chord shapes become? Like kind of all on top of each other?
No, no, no. I still looked at the dots in the book.
Yeah.
I can't even remember it now. First song I learned to play. I read the news. What's the next chord in?
Yeah. There's some like
Nope.
I can't remember. Yeah,
Yo, Russ.
I played it at my wedding. I know
What are
this.
the changes to I know the first chord is G. I read the news today. Oh boy.
It's G,
Yeah.
B minor over F sharp.
Really? Oh no, it's a B minor
But an F sharp in the bass.
with the F sharp in the bass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right.
Seven over an F.
Into a D. Right. About a lucky man who made it. Whatever. But anyway. So I did those chords and it was sounding totally wacky, and I couldn't understand why it didn't sound like A Day in the Life, and because I guess what I was hearing, instead of the first thing being, it would be like
Oh, right. Yeah. Some crazy stretch.
like it was all like man, what is that? I read the news. So my man came, he tuned the guitar for me, and then as soon as he tuned the guitar, I had been practicing so hard at this thing, and my grandfather's guitar had action that was that high, so I was just getting stronger and stronger. And then I went, and it was like, oh my God.
That's what I've been looking for.
Oh boy. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and you're off to the
And
race.
I was gone, man.
Let's get into the song "I'm Coming Out." Let's talk about this a little bit. What do you remember about the day in the studio that you recorded "I'm Coming Out"? Like, who was there with you? Who was in the room? Was Diana Ross there? Would she come in after you tracked stuff, or would she be there, kind of like being involved in the musical side of stuff too?
Yes, never. She was never there during the tracking.
Okay.
I'm Coming Out was a process. Believe it or not, that rhythm that I had written out for Tony Thompson to play in the drum. See, everybody in my band, they were all good music readers, right?
Right.
So that drum part I had written for Tony for a recording session that we had done with Ashford and Simpson, and they had a song called "Don't Cost You Nothing," and they had hired us. We were really young. Valerie Simpson's brother said, I found these guys. They're really great. You need to hear them. They're going to be the next big thing. Just hire them to produce a couple of your songs. So they were really nice to us. They let us come in. And so me, of course, wanting to be Burt Bacharach, they play their song, and it's don't cost you nothing. Do take a chance as you go. Don't cost you nothing. Doom, doom. And I was like, no. Let me make this cool. So I went, don't cost you boom, pa, boom, 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 do do pa, va pa pa da, boom, pa, boom, 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 doom fa, boom, don't cost you nothing, fa, doom, boom, doom, doom pa, va pa pa da, doom, doom fa. Because it was a time of fusion, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna make this like totally happening. It's gonna be like, phew, Tony Williams' lifetime. Whoops. No, I always make fun of Valerie Simpson. She wrote me the kindest Dear John letter, like, thanks, but no thanks. Now she says,
Did they figure that out later when this song was a huge hit? Were they like,
no. She actually was being really great because one, we did take that song too far, but two, we had already played her our demos of songs that we had cut, and she said, wow, those are going to be hits. There's nothing we can really do to help you, and we don't think your concept of arranging our stuff helps us. So we parted ways, but have always stayed incredibly close friends.
oh wow, that's cool.
So that drum beat existed in my head, and it was like, when you're in a band, you have licks that you try, and
Sure.
it doesn't make it on one song, it doesn't make it on another, but then finally you write another song. And so that drum beat, I had the chart written out for Tony, and we had tried that drum beat on a number of songs. We actually named it the Hesitation Waltz, even though it's not in 6/8 or 3. It's not a waltz, but we'd like the do fa boom 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 do fa doom doom do va pa pa doom doom boom do the pa braku braku doom fa boom boom boom. So at the time that we cut the record, I knew that pattern so well. If you play the record, because I guarantee you I don't remember it now. But I knew that pattern so well that it's now it becomes playful when we record it, because we record everything as a full band. So when we record it, there's a bit where Tony and I are playing off of each other, where that groove is so strong and so solid and I'm started doing so. My normal part is something like something like that, right?
Sure. Sure.
But then I started getting playful with it, and I'm doing like, and all sorts of
Oh,
stuff.
okay, yeah. Wow. Cool. Those details that, like, to the casual listener, you're not even processing that, but it's in there and it's doing something. Like, you're
Right,
feeling it if you're not realizing what it is.
right. Well, the thing is that I'm a very hook-oriented guy. I believe in reinforcing the thing that I believe is melodically the motif that the house is built on. So
Right.
to me, the house was built on "I'm coming out." So it was built on the right. I want the world to know that the love is show. I'm coming out. I want the world to know. So when I start to riff and go off and I go or whatever I do, you'll always hear or 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 whatever. I
Like,
don't
you're
even
playing
know
off the melody in your.
on some kind of way.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
What can you just sort of detail what exactly that is you just did, like where you're playing that and how and what the, because that's the stuff in your playing that it's hard to figure out just by listening to the record. So I want to see, like, exactly what you're doing there.
The basic structure of "I'm coming out," and I guess it's important to know why we wrote "I'm coming out." So when we had written "He's the Greatest Dancer" for Sister Sledge, which is how we broke Sister Sledge, um, I had no idea that Kathy was 16 years old and a virgin and was a church-going girl. But "He's the Greatest Dancer" was about having a one-night stand with a guy. And the mother was the manager, and they were angry, and it caused a lot of problems between us. And we were like going, oh my God. So now we get a chance to produce Diana Ross. The last thing I want to do is have a misunderstanding with Diana Ross. So we sit down with Diana and we do 2 days of, wow, the album is a documentary. She basically tells us her whole life. And then I happened to go out clubbing one night, and I went to a club that was primarily a trans club, but it was just it was the 70s. Clubs were clubs. It was like it may be a trans club, but it wasn't weird if you were straight, and you know. So I went into the bathroom, and I don't mind saying that those were the heavy drug days. And I went into the bathroom, but I was actually using the bathroom for what it was intended. It was
Cocaine, right?
I well, no, I had to pee. So I went to pee, and I noticed that on either side of me, like 6 or 7 deep, were Diana Ross impersonators, and I was like, "What?" And I got all excited. I'm like, "Oh man, this is a sign." And like the light bulb goes off over my head. And I was thinking of, I got to write a song about, the pride that the gay community feels, towards Diana Ross or her alliance with that community.
Did she was she aware of that of
Oh
that?
no, not at all, not at all. No, no, no. This was.
She didn't know she was a gay icon or what
Oh
what
yeah, she probably did know that, but
Right.
she didn't necessarily know the term "I'm coming out."
Oh, okay, right, sure. Sure.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because um, so I got really excited. I called my partner Bernard, who wasn't a party animal. I called him up and I told him, I said, "Yo, please write this down because I guarantee you I'm going to get drunk tonight. I'm going to forget this." I said, "Write down, I'm coming out." He was half asleep. He was like going, "Man, what, man? What are you talking about? I'm coming out. What?" I said, "Yeah, man, write down, I'm coming out." And then I explained the situation to him. I said, dude, I'm like in a Fellini movie. I'm in the bathroom and there's like Diana Ross is all around me, and we got to write the song because
Yeah.
that it's like, dude, it's a sign. I mean, come on, man. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Cool. So the next day, the band, we all convene at the studio. So a typical chic recording session is the rhythm section, and and when I say the rhythm section, we don't do percussion when we do the basic rhythm section. So it's just our two keyboard players, guitar, bass, and drums. So that's how we record. That's how we start, and then everything else is. So when we do the percussion, that we devote a day or two to doing all the percussion on the album. When we do the strings, we devote a day or two to doing all the strings. When we do the horns, and then we do the background vocals, same thing. So that's our technique. And we can finish an entire album in usually about 2 weeks or a week and a half with that process.
Yeah.
So the day that we cut it, it's just the rhythm section. It's me, Bernard Edwards, Tony Thompson, Raymond Jones, and Rob Sabino. And it's D minor 7, A minor 7, down to G minor 7, and then F, B flat, F, B flat, A minor 7.
Now, when you're doing all those chords, are you doing? Because I also know you do a lot of, you'll do inversions where it's just the top 3 strings or whatever.
Right.
Like full chords on this one.
I finger full chords, but you don't hear. You're not hearing. You're hearing. You're just hearing the top 3 strings, basically. So you're hearing, right? But everything is fingered to keep it from, having sympathetic overtones and stuff. Yeah, you got it.
Cool.
Right.
And just out of curiosity, where are you on your pickup selector? Are you like in the middle?
Always on the neck pickup. Always.
All the way on the neck. Okay, gotcha. And on this track, I mean, I'm assuming it's the Hitmaker, but
Yeah.
what else do you have going on? I mean, you're famous for plugging direct into the board. Is that how you were doing it?
So everything is direct with whatever amp I happen to be in love with at the time. So both things are recorded simultaneously and then blended.
And do you remember what amp you were playing on this session?
Not really. It would probably have been Vibrolux. I was always a big fan of Tangent speakers right from the beginning.
Yeah.
They seem to cut better. They have that sort of thing. So everything I do is light. Super light gauge strings. My pick is absurd.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Like,
Because you part of your process of plugging direct into the board, do you sort of think of consoles the way most of us guitar players think of amps? Like, are there specific ones that you go to because you like this specific sound or that specific sound?
At a certain point in my life, that was the case. So when we started out on a Neve 6120. And was it a 6120 or am I getting my guitar now number? I'm starting to think about Gretsch guitars or Gibson.
Right.
Yeah, no. So,
but a Neve.
A Neve, right? Yeah. Okay. The Neve at the power station, in Studio A. So that was our main console. Then we moved to Studio B because all the big rock and roll bands wanted to use the room sound at the power station. And we found that we could make just as many hits in the smaller studio and stay under budget. And it was great. And the studio loved us because they were able to book their second studio all the time, which we had it continuously. And then Bob Clearmountain and we went out to Los Angeles to record the third CHIC album. And we had the Nicholas brothers tap dance on one of our songs. And we went to a studio called Kendon. And it was the first time we had seen an SSL. And we went, whoa, what is this? And it had gates on every channel. And we were like, oh man. And it was the first time we had seen Yamaha NS10s. Because up until that time, everything was, Auratone speakers were like the default speakers that we went to listen to it in an environment that most people would listen on.
Right.
But when we saw those NS10s and that SSL, we were like, power stations got to build us a new studio. And we were such big clients. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of recordings that we made. It was just one record after the next. We were nonstop. We put the power station on the map. We never left. Every single day we were making records.
And you had a bunch of hit records by this time, but was Diana Ross the first like superstar?
Yes, she was the first superstar.
So how was that? Like, how was that for you as a producer? Was she open to what you wanted to do and your suggestions and sort of the direction you wanted to take things, or was she set in her ways? Like, how was that working with her?
She was completely open, and as I said, we interviewed her for 2 days. No one had ever interviewed her before writing a song. At Motown, she just sang what they gave her to sing. She was so flattered that we took the time to find out who she was. Of course, we didn't tell her that we had just had a horrible experience with Sister Sledge, but gave them a monster record. I mean, 4 monster records. So we were just covering our butts and trying to get smarter because we didn't know any better. We were just young and we didn't know. We only knew what we knew. We didn't know what we didn't know. So
helpful sometimes.
Yeah. So
know the things you don't know.
Yeah. So after she tells us her whole life story, we write a documentary as seen through the eyes of Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers. That's all that album is. That's why it's just called Diana. It's
her life story.
It's like we knew that Berry Gordy had fathered her first child, but no one had admitted it, but she told us. So we wrote about it. We wrote the song Upside Down. Upside down, boy, you turn me round and round. And because she was a superstar at that time, the two biggest women artists in the world were Barbra Streisand and Diana Ross. So we knew that we could use words that were like polysyllabic words. So when we wrote Upside Down, we do instinctively you give to me the love that I need. I cherish the moments with you. Respectfully, I say to thee, give me a break. You couldn't put that shit in a rock and roll record, but you got Diana Ross. Respectfully, I say to thee, I'm aware that you're cheating. And it worked. So Upside Down was killing for her, and I'm Coming Out was great. And she was so happy. And she walked over, or whatever, she rode over to the number one station in America at that time, was WBLS. And the number one DJ was a guy named Frankie Crocker. And she played I'm Coming Out for him. She just loved it. And Frankie Crocker told her, he said, do you know what this song is about? And she says, what do you mean? He says, do you know that this song is going to ruin your career? She said, what are you talking about? She said, no, this whole album is about me. It's a documentary. It's about my life.
Right.
He said, well, is your life that you're gay? He said, what are you talking about? This is saying that you're coming out and that you're gay. So she came back to the studio and she was really upset because this guy was the most powerful person in the music business in America at that time.
Wow.
And he told her all this negative stuff. And this was the one, and I promise you, it was the one and only time I ever lied to an artist in my life. I knew that this was going to be a hit. And I rarely know that a record's going to be a hit. Believe me.
But you knew when you guys had this one.
Oh, come on, man! If you had been in that club and seen all these, like the community of people, and they were all like dressed up like Diana, and it wasn't like it was Diana Ross night or something, or maybe it was. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I couldn't believe what I saw. Like, you go to a club and everybody is dressed up like the artist that you're producing.
Sure.
So I looked at Diana, and I remember I looked at her and I lied to her, and I said, "Wait a minute, what did Frankie tell you?" She said, "He told me this record's going to ruin my career." I said, "And why is that?" "Because it says I'm coming out. It's going to make people think that I say that I'm coming out of the closet." Now Diana is totally not homophobic. Believe me, she's like one of the coolest people in the world.
But it was a different era. Sure.
She's not gay. So she was just saying, if you're doing a documentary about me, why are you saying I'm gay? And I said, because Frankie doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. We're not saying that you're gay. We're saying that you're coming out and starting your show. And I said to her, I said, Diana, when you start your show, when you talk to your band, what do you say to what do you say to the band? She said, "Okay, I don't know, but the band leader does that." I said, "Well, we say, hey guys, what song are we coming out with tonight?" And she said, "Oh, you guys in New York, you're so cute." And I said, "Yeah, that's what we do." I said, because we have a lot of songs, and we like to read the crowd like DJs. So we say, "Well, what song are we going to come out with tonight?" So this is your coming out song, and believe it or not, I guarantee you that once this album comes out and people hear this, you are never, ever going to come out to another song again for the rest of your life. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Diana Ross in the last 40 years, but believe me, I wound up being prophetic, because every show starts with, "I'm coming out."
And that big drum. Yeah, exactly.
Every show. Every single show.
It was funny, like after the song came out, was a massive, mega hit. Were you like, actually, that DJ he was right? Like, did you eventually tell her the truth?
I don't think it ever came to that, because
nobody cares when it's a hit at that point, right?
Yeah, like there's what the old adage in the recording business: a hit has many fathers, and a failure is an orphan.
Right.
Like, so at this point, it was everybody's idea. Oh no, of course we want. Oh man, of course we believe in that. That's great, man. Yeah, look at the gay community standing up with Diana Ross. Yeah, I was like, oh please. Now, and the way that I sold it to my partner, I said to him, it'll be just like when James Brown, who was not particularly known for being an activist or whatever, but all he did was cut one record, say it loud, "I'm black and I'm proud." Next thing you know, James Brown was like Malcolm X. Right. I said, so all we got to do is cut "I'm Coming Out," and Diana Ross is going to be like the head of the movement.
Well, okay, let's get into like the meat and potatoes of how you play this. I mean, you showed me like those initial chords. So that's the opening of the song. That's also the chorus and kind of the main riff. Then there's like a verse that's kind of like a mellower version of a similar theme, but not quite the same, and a little chorus. Right. Let's how you approach that.
So the chorus we got. And the verse basically goes.
Before we get to the verse, actually, when you play that, when you get down to that G minor 7, are you throwing like a sus4 thing in there?
Every now and then, yeah, I go. Yeah. Yep. And I'll even do it on the A every now and then.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I always say that the way that I play guitar is like I'm the right hand of the piano.
Okay.
So like when we're playing with piano players, they're always fiddling around up there
Sure.
and doing inversions and doing licks and other melodies. So when I play the basic song, I establish the riff. But once I establish the riff, I'm continuously developing it and fooling around with it, and just having fun, and just having conversations with my bandmates, while we're playing the song, and they do the same thing too. We're all just jamming through every song.
And what was that high inversion thing that you threw in there a minute ago?
Oh, so every now and then, what I'll do is so if I'm playing a D, one of the fun things I like to do is I like to go.
Just an octave up.
Well, no. At that point, I'm playing a minor 11. I'm playing all fourths. I'm playing.
Oh. Oh, wow.
And I'll go. And I'll play it down here. I go. But I use it with minor 7. So the reason why I'll do it with just fourth up high, because at that point we know the song, so we can accept that.
You've established the pattern or the riff in the chord structure in people's ears, and now you can start to play with it.
Sometimes I'll switch to. So I go.
Ooh, what was that quick chord you put in there? Was that like a C or something?
So that was a variation of a D minor 11, but I'm only playing that portion of it. So I don't have a D in it. I'm only playing the extensions.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I'll play.
Whoa, okay, cool. Oh, wow, that's great. Oh, that's going to take me a minute to work that one out fast.
It's nice though, right? It's a nice thing.
But those are exactly the details I'm talking about that make your song so cool. Like you just don't. To me, as a guitar player, I would never be able to pick that up off the recording. So it's wonderful to have you explain it.
But the whole point of it is that the rhythm section, we become this this sort of comforting place that that we're jamming together, but we're being subordinate to the rules of the mode, if you will. Every now and then I might stretch, but I try not to go too far. So,
and your guitar playing never steps on a vocal.
I've noticed that's the most important thing to me. To always keep the vocalist featured.
So what are you doing in that verse section? It's like a similar chords.
So if you think of this song, the tonic really is F. It's not really. I mean, it could be D minor, but I really think of it as F. So I go F coming out. Have to live, want to live. So I'm just going 1, 3, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2.
Okay, great. You're doing the F is almost like a C shape or like a D minor 7 with the F.
Yeah, or actually because I'm real So my favorite style of playing is to really just use three strings at a time. And the reason why I like to use three strings, even though I might finger more, I'm only concentrating on playing three, um, is because it allows me to um, dance around the neck a little bit and make the parts really interesting. So I just did that to show you what the basis is,
Oh, okay.
but I don't actually play that on the record. On the record, I go, sorry. And then sometimes I'll go,
Oh, okay.
this time has come for me to break. Oops, sorry, minor.
Okay, well, for that section, when you hit that first D minor, I thought I heard something on the record, like something moving around, like or some movement under there. Are you doing anything like that?
Oh, so we go, no. So basically, I'm actually just going. So see, that's the benefit of using just three strings. So you hear that, and then so I'm going.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, cool. Yeah, great.
You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? So you hear.
So it's almost a kind of a high-low, like you're going high-low, right, on the different string. Wow, that's really cool. That is like quintessential chucking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is the chucking
That's
rhythm
sucking. Yeah,
right there. Yeah, right.
that's it.
Okay. Amazing. Hey, can you talk a little bit about or break down there's like a guitar solo kind of in the end, or as the song's kind of going into more of like an instrumental thing, that some of it's a little low in the mix, so it was a little hard to hear exactly, but it's something like
Oh yeah.
that whole thing. Yeah,
Right.
what are you doing there? Like a minor pentatonic box kind of thing with some passing notes. Yeah.
So basically, I love this, man. You're really getting into the meat of it. So what happened was the first time we met Diana Ross was at a live show, and we were playing in Los Angeles at the Santa Monica Civic, and Bernard turned me around and he said, "Is that Diana Ross back there?" 'Cause we saw the big hairdo, and he said, "Damn, that's like the Queen coming to see us." So I wrote a fanfare. So I wrote. So that's what you're hearing. You're hearing me. Yeah. So what I'm playing.
That's your salute to the Queen.
That's a salute to the Queen, bro. So I'm trying to think. I'm going. So I'm playing along with him. I'm going. Uh, all right. Something like that.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I'm going. That's what I do. I think that's what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wrote that. I wrote it so long ago I can't remember, but right. So that's in the middle of did it. I go woo, some country kind of lick,
Yeah,
right? So I
exactly.
go
Yeah, it's like the Keith Richards band.
right.
It's funny because that kind of gets back to the thing that, I asked you kind of off the top, but like, probably for most guys, like if I was a producer, I'd be like, that's going to be 10 times louder and super gained up when it gets to that part. But yeah, I like how you keep it in the soup. It's cool.
It's nice having fun with you, man, to dissect this song
Yeah.
because I forgot about the fanfare. Like, and I forgot about Bernard saying, "Man, that's like the Queen coming to see us." And I was like, "Okay, boom." So you think about, okay, drag queens. So we saw drag queens at night. Dude, this is the first time I'm actually putting this together. So it was drag queens the night that I had the idea. I had to convince Bernard to write it down to memorize it for me because I knew I was going to be so drunk. The next day I go, what? What are you talking about? Oh, right. Um, and it all came from that initial meeting of him seeing her saying that's like the Queen, the drag queens. Next thing you know, I write a fanfare. So it's all
Yeah.
about royalty
All
and
comes
Diana
together.
Ross being the queen of, the
Yeah.
the sort of crowd that we were trying to influence, if you will. We wanted to represent the sort of sophisticated new R&B crowd.
Right.
Chic, we didn't play like the Ohio Players, even though we loved the Ohio Players, but
Right.
we
Yeah.
wanted to be like the slick, group that did our own orchestration. Like you didn't see anyone else's name writing the orchestration. It was always,
Self-contained.
oh yeah, self-containing.
Self-contained band. Hey man, Niall, you've been amazing today and like so amazingly generous with your time. Do you have time to sit for a minute and take a couple of fan questions?
Sure,
'Cause
bro.
I threw it out. I threw it out to the internet that I was interviewing you today, and got some people. There's some things people want to know. Let's see here. Of course, there's going to be a bunch of questions about the Hitmaker, and you already addressed some of it. So some of this I don't need to ask you. But my two dogs eat fish wants to know if he couldn't play his Hitmaker, what would be his go-to guitar?
Well, I've played other Strat-like guitars. There was the era where the Japanese guitar makers, Fernandez and Tokai and all those Strats were coming out, and they were great. I played Tokai Strats for a long time. Um, uh, and if I couldn't play the Hitmaker, I would probably just play a different Strat.
There you
Um, I mean, so the Hitmaker is a hardtail, which is a very specific type of Strat. They only make one out of every 100 Strats as a hardtail. So I'd probably play one with a whammy bar.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Get into some of that Eddie Van Halen stuff.
Oh, well, dig this. Have you guys seen this? They have a Bixby pedal.
A Bigsby pedal. I have not
I
seen that.
am buying that tomorrow.
What is
Yeah.
it?
It's like having a Bixby tailpiece on your guitar, and I don't have um, uh, a Bixby or any kind of whammy bar on this, and it's a whammy bar pedal.
Oh my God! Wow. Yeah, I have not seen it, but I'm going to check it out. And if anybody from Fender's watching, get Niall Bigsby on his next Strat immediately.
No. I'm not going to put a Bixby on it. It's on the floor. It's a pedal.
Okay, great. Perfect. Even better. Okay, Bryson Jones. I've got actually, this is a two-parter because there's two questions I felt like were kind of related. So Bryson Jones wants to know, what role did or does compression play in his classic chopping rhythm playing? And then Corey Allen Porter wants to know, is the tone really in the fingers?
Yeah, it's really bone tone.
Bone tone. Yes.
Yeah. If almost any guitar I play, I won't be satisfied until it sort of sounds like this. So it's a combination of very light strings, the most ridiculous light pick you can imagine, and also not playing a guitar hard. I very very light, um, and um, and even when I solo, if unless it's something I really want to like shred down and hit hard, like when I did Halo with Steve Vai, or some stuff I did with Dweezil Zappa. Yeah, when I'm playing with guys like that, out comes the Marshall or the high watt or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then we go and we rip and go nuts. But that's typically not what I'm called upon to do. So yeah, I have fun playing with guys like that. I have fun playing with like Andrew Watt, but that's not my main thing. So my main thing is this or jazz, and it's very fulfilling for me to play music where I'm always thinking. Like when I play, no matter how simple the song is, I'm always thinking. What rules are governing where I'm at in the song right now, and how do I do something that I've never played before tonight on this song. It's
Yeah.
just, if you've ever seen a live Chic show, you'll see I can't help but do that because that's fun to me. I think that that's what piano players are doing. They're like,
Playing around the rules, breaking the rules.
all
but
the
takes,
time.
Yeah.
And that's why people ask me many times, man, how could you play those songs for so many years? And, and I go, well, pal, I've actually have had hits, but but I feel it's my responsibility to play the songs that if people are hearing me for the first time, they want to hear Freak Out. They want to hear I'm
Good time.
Coming Out. They want to hear Good Times. Yeah,
Of course. And that's the thing about playing live. You got to find the way that keeps it exciting every night. Nile, you are the best, man. Thank you for doing this today.
No problem, man. A lot of fun.
Far more fun for me, I'm sure, but I love it, man.
Okay, anytime. If you want to do it with something else, that's great. Call me again.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it for season 2, baby. I'll be back. All right, that was Nile Rodgers on Shred With Shifty. What a cool dude and what an amazing player. You heard him. He said he'd come back and do another tune with us, so we'll hold him to that hopefully sooner than later. And don't forget, we got a bunch of other great guests coming up. We got Mike Campbell, we got Richie Sambora, we got Charlie Starr, we got Mike McCready. Tons of guests. It's going to be an awesome first season. And that's it for this week. We'll see you soon. Adios, amigos.
1, 2, 3.
Shred with Shifty is created and hosted by me, Chris Shiflett, and produced in partnership with Double Elvis, Volume.com, and Premier Guitar. If you're digging the show, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you get our new episodes when they come out every other week. Volume.com is a free platform with live stream performances, concert broadcasts, and a video archive that includes performances by Brothers Osborne, Stone Temple Pilots, Dierks Bentley, Weezer, and more. Shred with Shifty is produced by Jason Shadrick. Our executive producers are Brady Sadler and Jake Brennan for Double Elvis. Engineering support by Matt Tahaney and Matt Bowden. Our video editors are Dan DeStefano and Addison Savan. Special thanks to Chris Peterson, Greg Necron, and the entire Volume.com crew. Adios, amigos.